December 18, 1944, 13:47 hours. Snow-covered fields outside Malmedy, Belgium. A German panzer commander raised his binoculars and watched something that shouldn't have been possible. An American tank destroyer had just appeared on his flank, fired 3 rounds in rapid succession, and vanished before his gunner could traverse the turret. The Tiger I tank, Germany's most feared armored weapon, sat burning in the snow. The crew never saw what hit them. What the Germans didn't know was that they were facing a weapon designed on a revolutionary principle that contradicted everything they understood about armored warfare. While German doctrine emphasized heavy armor and massive firepower, American engineers had created something entirely different. A vehicle so fast it could appear, kill, and disappear before the enemy could respond. The M18 Hellcat wasn't built to stand and fight, it was built to hunt. The German armored doctrine that dominated European battlefields from 1940 to 1944 rested on a simple premise: heavier armor and bigger guns always win. This philosophy had produced the Panzer IV, the Panther, and ultimately the Tiger I, a 56-ton behemoth mounting an 88mm gun capable of destroying any Allied tank at ranges exceeding 2,000 meters. German tank crews had come to believe themselves invincible. By late 1944, this confidence had hardened into dangerous assumption. Wehrmacht training manuals emphasized frontal engagements where German armor superiority would prove decisive. Tank commanders were taught to occupy defensive positions, allow enemy armor to approach, and destroy it at maximum range. The doctrine had worked brilliantly in North Africa, devastatingly in Normandy's Bocage country, and the Germans saw no reason to question it. Field Marshal Walter Model, commanding Army Group B in December 1944, had organized his panzer forces according to these proven principles. His intelligence officers estimated American tank destroyers posed minimal threat. Captured documents from earlier battles showed American M10 tank destroyers were slow, thinly armored, and mounted guns barely adequate against Panther frontal armor. Model's staff calculated that German Tigers and Panthers could engage and destroy American armor at ranges where return fire would be ineffective. What the German intelligence had failed to detect was a fundamental shift in American armor doctrine that had been developing since the North African campaign. After analyzing tank battles from Kasserine Pass through the Normandy breakout, American armor officers had reached a revolutionary conclusion. In modern mechanized warfare, mobility could be more valuable than armor protection. The concept violated conventional military wisdom. Since tanks first appeared in World War I, designers had focused on protection and firepower. American theorists proposed something radical, accepting vulnerability in exchange for speed that would prevent the enemy from achieving firing solutions. Colonel Andrew Bruce, commanding the Tank Destroyer Center at Camp Hood, Texas, had been developing these concepts since 1942. Bruce's analysis of combat reports revealed a critical pattern. Tank destroyers rarely survived prolonged engagements with German armor. The M10 Wolverine, with its 3-inch gun and maximum speed of 30 miles per hour, was simply too slow to exploit opportunities or escape when outgunned. What was needed, Bruce argued, was a vehicle that could reach firing positions faster than enemy guns could traverse, deliver killing shots, and disappear before return fire arrived. The specifications Bruce submitted to the Ordnance Department in early 1943 seemed impossible. Maximum speed exceeding 50 miles per hour, 76mm gun capable of penetrating German armor at combat ranges, weight under 20 tons to maximize mobility, and open-top turret to reduce weight and improve crew awareness. Engineering teams at Buick Motor Division were handed the challenge of creating this unprecedented weapon. The design that emerged prioritized speed above all else. The hull was constructed from thin armor plate, maximum thickness only 1 inch compared to the Tiger's 4 inches. The Continental R975 radial engine, originally designed for aircraft, produced 450 horsepower. The Wright E7 transmission provided controlled differential steering, allowing impossibly tight turns at speed. Every component was selected for minimum weight and maximum performance. Testing at Aberdeen Proving Ground in October 1943 produced results that shocked observers. The prototype M18 achieved 55 miles per hour on level roads, faster than most wheeled vehicles. It could accelerate from standstill to 30 miles per hour in under 20 seconds. The power-to-weight ratio of 22.5 horsepower per ton gave it acceleration German tanks couldn't match. Most remarkably, the controlled differential steering allowed the M18 to execute a 360-degree turn in its own length while moving at speed. The 76mm M1A1 gun, while lighter than the Tiger's 88, could penetrate 93mm of armor at 1,000 yards using standard ammunition. More importantly, the open-top turret allowed 360-degree traverse in under 8 seconds. The Tiger required 60 seconds for full turret rotation. An experienced Hellcat crew could acquire targets, fire, and displace in under 30 seconds. By summer 1944, M18 production at Buick's facilities reached full capacity. The first tank destroyer battalions receiving Hellcats underwent intensive training in the new tactics Bruce had developed. Crews learned to think like light cavalry rather than traditional tankers. Never engage frontally, always attack from flanks or rear, fire and move constantly, use terrain for concealment rather than protection. The tactical manual for M18 operations explicitly stated, "The Hellcat does not fight fair. It strikes from ambush, from flanks, from positions the enemy considers impossible to reach. Survival depends on not being where the enemy expects when he returns fire." This represented a complete philosophical departure from German armor doctrine. When the first Hellcat battalions arrived in Europe in July 1944, German intelligence officers examining destroyed vehicles noted the thin armor and assumed the Americans had deployed another inadequate tank destroyer. Reports to Wehrmacht headquarters described the M18 as lightly armored, similar to existing American tank destroyers, no significant threat to panzer formations. This assessment would prove catastrophically wrong. The 630th Tank Destroyer Battalion, first American unit fully equipped with Hellcats, landed in France on August 1st. Their baptism of fire came 2 weeks later during the Falaise Pocket operation. German panzer units attempting to escape the Allied encirclement encountered something they had never faced before: American armor that could appear on their flanks faster than German commanders could reposition their forces. Lieutenant Colonel Raymond Davis, commanding the 630th, described the engagement in his after-action report. German tanks were configured for frontal engagement. When our Hellcats appeared on their flanks at high speed, their doctrine failed them. They attempted to turn and face us, but we were already gone, repositioning for another strike. We destroyed 11 German tanks without losing a single Hellcat.
The true revelation of the Hellcat's capabilities came during the German Ardennes offensive, December 16, 1944. Field Marshal Model's battle plan called for rapid armored thrusts through the Ardennes forest, exploiting the weakly defended American sector. German intelligence had identified this area as unsuitable for Allied armor operations. The terrain was too restrictive, the roads too narrow for effective tank deployment. Model's panzer commanders expected to face American infantry with limited anti-tank capabilities. What they encountered instead was a new form of armored warfare that exploited the very terrain restrictions German planners thought would protect them. The M18 Hellcat, with its narrow profile and exceptional maneuverability, thrived in exactly the conditions that restricted heavier tanks. The 705th Tank Destroyer Battalion, equipped with 17 M18 Hellcats, was positioned near St. Vith when the German offensive began. Major Harold Williamson, battalion commander, received intelligence reports of German armor advancing along multiple approach routes. Traditional doctrine called for establishing defensive positions and engaging enemy armor at maximum range. Williamson recognized that against tigers and panthers, stationary defense meant certain destruction. Instead, Williamson implemented the mobile defense tactics developed specifically for the Hellcat. His battalion dispersed into 4 vehicle platoons, each assigned a sector with multiple pre-planned firing positions and withdrawal routes. The concept was simple: observe German armor approach, race to optimal firing positions, engage from flank or rear, and displace before return fire arrived. December 17th, 06:30 hours. The first engagement demonstrated the new doctrine's devastating effectiveness. A German column consisting of 4 Tiger I tanks and supporting infantry advanced along the Schönberg Road. Sergeant Robert Hayes, commanding an M18 platoon, positioned his vehicles in concealment 800 meters from the road. German procedure called for the lead tank to advance while supporting vehicles provided overwatch, standard tactics for dealing with American armor. Hayes waited until the entire column entered the killing zone. At 06:47 hours, all 4 Hellcats fired simultaneously. The engagement lasted 43 seconds. 4 Tigers were burning, and Hayes's platoon was already displacing to secondary positions 2 kilometers distant. German infantry reported being engaged by American armor, but when supporting units arrived, they found only destroyed Tigers and empty firing positions. The pattern repeated throughout December 17th. German armored columns found themselves under attack from positions that seemed impossible, flanking fire from directions their intelligence indicated contained no American armor, strikes from ranges that appeared and disappeared before effective response. The 705th Tank Destroyer Battalion claimed 18 German armored vehicles destroyed on the first day of combat. Their losses? 1 M18 damaged by artillery fire, later recovered and repaired. German after-action reports from December 17th reveal complete confusion about what they were facing. One panzer commander reported, engaged by American armor from tree line at 800 meters, returned fire but enemy had displaced, pursued to the last known position, found nothing. 10 minutes later, engaged from opposite flank. Enemy again disappeared before effective response possible. The fundamental problem was speed. Tiger I tanks could achieve 24 miles per hour maximum speed on roads. Panthers could manage 29 miles per hour. Both required several minutes to traverse their turrets and achieve firing solutions. The Hellcat could reach 50 miles per hour on the same roads, and its turret could traverse 360 degrees in under 8 seconds. German crews were fighting an enemy that moved faster than their decision-making cycle. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. The German command structure, built on decades of successful armored doctrine, struggled to comprehend what was happening in the Ardennes. Reports flooding into Field Marshal Model's headquarters described impossible scenarios. American armor appearing simultaneously in multiple locations, engaging from extreme flanks, vanishing before counterattacks could develop. Model's intelligence officers suspected exaggerated reports from panicked crews. December 18th, 0900 hours. Model convened an emergency meeting with his panzer commanders at the 5th Panzer Army headquarters in Gerolstein. Colonel Heinrich Bauer, commanding the 501st Heavy Panzer Battalion, presented reconnaissance photographs showing M18 track patterns. The evidence revealed American tank destroyers moving at speeds German intelligence had considered impossible for tracked vehicles. Bauer's analysis identified the core problem. These American vehicles are achieving tactical positions faster than our forces can respond. Our Tigers require 5 to 7 minutes to reposition and achieve firing solutions. The American tank destroyers are completing their attack cycle in under 60 seconds. We are not fighting tanks, we are fighting cavalry mounted on tracked vehicles. The Wehrmacht's tactical manual for countering American armor, printed in September 1944, dedicated only 3 paragraphs to tank destroyers. The doctrine assumed all American armored vehicles would attempt frontal engagement where German armor superiority would prove decisive. There were no procedures for countering an enemy that refused direct combat. and attacked only from positions of absolute advantage. Model authorized immediate tactical modifications. Panzer columns were ordered to deploy reconnaissance elements 2,000 meters forward and 1,000 meters on each flank. Supporting infantry would sweep terrain before armor advanced. The modifications added hours to movement times and consumed fuel German logistics could barely provide. More critically, the changes assumed German forces could detect Hellcats before engagement, an assumption the Americans were systematically proving false. The 814th Tank Destroyer Battalion, operating in the northern Ardennes sector, had perfected what they called carousel tactics. Lieutenant James Patterson documented the procedure in his operations log. Position 4 Hellcats at compass points around suspected enemy route. When German armor enters the kill zone, engage from all directions simultaneously. Enemy confusion prevents coordinated response. Withdraw before they determine primary threat axis. December 19th, 11:15 hours. Patterson's platoon executed carousel tactics against a German column near Stavelot. 6 Panthers and 3 Tigers entered the designated area. Within 90 seconds, all 9 German vehicles were burning. Radio intercepts recorded German transmissions. Under attack from all sides. Cannot identify enemy positions. Require immediate support. Before reinforcements arrived, Patterson's Hellcats had displaced 7 kilometers to pre-planned assembly areas. The psychological impact on German crews exceeded the physical destruction. Panzer commanders who had dominated European battlefields for 4 years found themselves hunted by an enemy they couldn't catch, couldn't fight, and couldn't predict. Tank crews began reporting phantom Hellcat sightings. German units halted advances to search for American armor that wasn't there, disrupting offensive timetables Model's plan required. Captured German documents from late December revealed the doctrinal crisis. A tactical bulletin distributed on December 21st stated, American M18 tank destroyers operate outside conventional armored engagement parameters. Standard counter-armor procedures are ineffective. Units encountering M18s should request air support and withdraw to defensive positions. This represented complete abandonment of offensive armored doctrine. The admission that German armor should retreat from American tank destroyers would have been unthinkable 6 months earlier. The Tiger I had been designed specifically to achieve battlefield dominance through superior firepower and protection. Now, German commanders were ordering these invincible weapons to flee from vehicles with 1/4 their armor thickness. Staff Sergeant Lawrence Mitchell, commanding an M18 in the 823rd Tank Destroyer Battalion, described the changed dynamic. Early in the war, we ran from Tigers. By December 44, they were running from us. Not because we had better armor or bigger guns, we were just faster than they could think. By the time they figured out where we were already somewhere else. The speed advantage created cascading tactical effects. German forces required fuel for extended reconnaissance and defensive repositioning. American Hellcats consumed fuel during rapid offensive strikes, but then retreated to concealed positions requiring no fuel expenditure. The mathematics favored American operations. German defensive measures cost more resources than American offensive operations. Intelligence summaries from the Wehrmacht's Army Group B headquarters show increasing desperation. December 22nd assessment. American tank destroyer tactics have negated our armored advantage. Recommend suspending offensive operations until effective countermeasures are developed. Model rejected the recommendation. Hitler's offensive timeline demanded continued attacks regardless of tactical realities. The German soldiers began using dark humor to cope with the Hellcat threat. Panzer crews called them Genstpenster, ghosts. The nickname reflected their experience. Vehicles that appeared without warning, killed with precision, and vanished as if they had never existed. Some German units reported refusing to advance through terrain suitable for Hellcat ambushes, claiming mechanical problems or fuel shortages rather than admit fear. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now, back to the story. By late December 1944, American tank destroyer battalions had developed Hellcat employment into a sophisticated operational art. The 704th Tank Destroyer Battalion, operating in the Bastogne corridor, pioneered what they termed Thunderrun tactics, high-speed penetrations deep into German rear areas to attack supply columns and command posts. Captain Theodore Walsh, commanding Company B of the 704th, documented the evolution. "We realized the Hellcat's speed allowed us to reach areas Germans considered secure. Their rear echelon units had minimal anti-armor capability. We could penetrate 15 kilometers behind their lines, create havoc, and extract before they organized a response." December 23, 0445 hours. Walsh's company executed the first documented Thunderrun. 6 Hellcats departed friendly lines at maximum speed, navigating through forest tracks German intelligence maps showed as impassable for armor. Within 40 minutes, they reached a German fuel depot near Haufelais. The engagement lasted 7 minutes. 19 fuel trucks and 2 ammunition carriers were destroyed. Walsh's company returned to American lines by 0630 hours without casualties. The psychological impact of deep penetration raids exceeded their material damage. German rear area commanders began requesting armored protection for supply convoys. Panthers and Tigers, desperately needed at the front, were diverted to escort duties. The reallocation of German armor to defensive roles represented complete reversal of their offensive doctrine. Radio intelligence units monitoring German communications documented the confusion. December 24th intercept, American armor reported at Haufelais. Request immediate verification, sector considered beyond enemy capability. December 25th, supply convoy refuses to move without armored escort. Claim American tank destroyers operating in rear areas. The reports forced German commanders to defend everywhere, concentrating nowhere. The 610th Tank Destroyer Battalion developed complementary tactics they called Wolfpack operations. Rather than operating in traditional platoons, they dispersed individual Hellcats across wide frontages with coordinated timing. Lieutenant Colonel Frank Harrison's operation order specified, "Each vehicle operates independently until designated trigger time. All units engage simultaneously across entire sector. Enemy cannot determine main effort or respond effectively to distributed attacks." December 26th provided textbook demonstration of Wolfpack effectiveness. 23 M18s from the 610th attacked German positions along a 15-kilometer front. Each Hellcat engaged a different target at precisely 1400 hours. German forces reported being attacked by an entire American armor division. In reality, they faced 24 vehicles operating independently with perfect timing coordination. The Germans attempted various countermeasures, each proving ineffective against Hellcat mobility. Ambush positions were established along likely approach routes, but American reconnaissance identified these positions and Hellcat simply used alternate routes. German tank destroyers were deployed to hunt Hellcats, but the heavier German vehicles couldn't match American speed. Luftwaffe air support was requested, but winter weather and Allied air superiority made effective airstrikes impossible. Desperation drove German commanders to increasingly extreme measures. The 116th Panzer Division attempted to create mobile reaction forces using their fastest vehicles, Panzer IVs and Stug assault guns. The concept called for rapid response to Hellcat sightings, engaging American tank destroyers before they could disengage. December 27th testing of this concept proved catastrophic. A German mobile reaction force of 8 Panzer IVs responded to reports of Hellcats near Mannheim. They achieved road speed of 35 miles per hour, faster than their standard advance rate. What they encountered was a prepared ambush. The 629th Tank Destroyer Battalion had deliberately revealed 2 Hellcats to draw German armor into a killing zone where 6 additional M18s waited in concealment. The engagement demonstrated why German countermeasures failed. German Panzer IVs, racing to engage 2 visible Hellcats, entered the ambush area at 1523 hours. All 8 German vehicles were destroyed by 1526 hours. The 2 bait Hellcats never fired. The concealed M18s eliminated the entire German force before the visible vehicles needed to engage. The Germans were fighting a thinking enemy that anticipated and exploited their responses. Technical modifications developed during combat operations enhanced Hellcat effectiveness further.
Crews discovered that reversing at high speed after firing prevented German gunners from tracking their displacement. The M18's powerful engine provided equal performance forward and reverse, a capability German tanks lacked. Crews began calling reverse speed engagements backdoor attacks. Sergeant Donald Price of the 820th Tank Destroyer Battalion perfected the backdoor technique. Approach target in reverse, maintaining visual contact through rear periscope. Stop, engage, and accelerate forward without turning around. Germans expected us to turn and flee. Instead, we were already moving away at maximum speed the instant our gun fired. The accumulation of tactical innovations created a weapon system far exceeding its original design parameters. The M18 Hellcat, conceived as a fast tank destroyer, had evolved into a multi-rolled armored vehicle capable of direct fire support, deep reconnaissance, raid operations, and mobile defense. The transformation reflected American tactical flexibility against German doctrinal rigidity. By December 28th, German offensive operations in the Ardennes had effectively stalled. While multiple factors contributed to the failure, fuel shortages, weather, Allied air power, the role of M18 Hellcats in disrupting German armored operations was undeniable. American tank destroyer battalions had achieved strategic effect through tactical innovation, proving that doctrinal evolution could overcome material disadvantage.
The Battle of the Bulge concluded on January 25, 1945. German forces had been pushed back to their starting positions, having achieved none of their operational objectives. While the failure resulted from multiple factors, post-war analysis identified the M18 Hellcat's contribution as tactically decisive. American tank destroyer battalions had fundamentally altered the calculus of armored warfare. Official U.S. Army records document M18 Hellcat performance during the Ardennes campaign. Operational period December 16, 1944 to January 25, 1945. Total Hellcats deployed across all tank destroyer battalions, 312 vehicles. German armored vehicles confirmed destroyed, 526 tanks and assault guns. American M18 losses, 42 vehicles, of which 31 were recovered and returned to service. The kill ratio exceeded 5-to-1 in favor of the Hellcat, a remarkable achievement considering the German forces included Tigers, Panthers, and veteran crews. More significantly, the M18 achieved these results while operating against the most concentrated German armored assault of the Western European campaign. The statistics validated the revolutionary concept that mobility could overcome armor protection. German military assessments documented in post-war interrogations conducted by the U.S. Army Historical Division acknowledged the decisive impact. General Otto Riemer, commanding Führer Brigade during the Ardennes offensive, testified, "The American fast tank destroyers changed everything. We could not defend against weapons that appeared faster than we could respond. Our tactical doctrine assumed we could control engagement ranges. These vehicles controlled engagement timing instead." Colonel Hans von Luck, operations officer for the 116th Panzer Division, provided more detailed analysis. German armored doctrine emphasized frontal protection and direct fire superiority. The Americans built a weapon that refused to fight on our terms. They attacked from flanks and rear at speeds that made our armor advantages irrelevant. We were fighting the next generation of armored warfare while still practicing the last generation's tactics. The lessons learned from Hellcat operations influenced military doctrine for decades. The U.S. Army's post-war Tank Destroyer Review Board concluded, "Speed and mobility provide tactical flexibility that armor protection cannot match. Future armored vehicle design should prioritize maneuverability over survivability when operating in fluid battlefield conditions." This conclusion represented vindication of Colonel Andrew Bruce's original concept, that velocity could be more valuable than armor plate. The principle would influence American armored development through the Cold War era, contributing to designs like the M56 Scorpion and eventually the Stryker mobile gun system. The psychological impact on German armored forces extended beyond the Ardennes campaign. Wehrmacht tactical bulletins from January 1945 show persistent concern about American tank destroyer operations. Units receiving new Panthers and Tigers were explicitly warned about M18 capabilities and instructed to avoid engagement conditions favoring American mobility. Allied intelligence officers noted that German armor became increasingly defensive after the Ardennes. Panzer divisions that had previously executed aggressive maneuver warfare began adopting static defensive positions. While fuel shortages and Allied air superiority contributed to this change, the Hellcat's demonstrated ability to punish mobile operations played a significant role in German tactical caution. The human cost of these tactical innovations was borne by the crews who operated Hellcats under combat conditions. Tank destroyer battalions suffered casualty rates comparable to infantry units despite being armored forces. The open-top turret that provided excellent visibility also exposed crews to artillery and small arms fire. The thin armor that enabled high speed provided minimal protection when enemy fire connected. Veterans of M18 operations described the psychological pressure of operating a vehicle designed for speed rather than protection. Corporal James Henderson of the 705th Tank Destroyer Battalion recalled, "You knew one good hit would kill you. The only protection was not being there when the shell arrived. Every engagement was a race. Kill them and move before they killed you." The stress was constant. The annual reunions of tank destroyer veterans beginning in 1948 brought together men who had pioneered mobile armored warfare. These gatherings, documented by military historians, revealed pride in their tactical achievements mixed with acknowledgement of the terrible price. The survivors understood they had fundamentally changed armored combat while losing friends to a doctrine that prioritized mission over protection. The National Armor and Cavalry Heritage Foundation preserves M18 Hellcat vehicles and operational records. 3 restored Hellcats remain operational, demonstrated at military history events. These machines, still capable of their original 55 miles per hour top speed, provide tangible evidence of the engineering achievement that supported tactical revolution. The final assessment belongs to General George Patton, 3rd Army commander during the Ardennes campaign. In his report to Supreme Allied Commander Eisenhower, Patton wrote, "The M18 tank destroyer proved itself the most effective American armored vehicle in the European theater. Its ability to appear where needed, strike decisively, and withdraw before enemy response saved countless American lives and destroyed German armored capability. Speed, properly employed, defeats armor." The 8 words of Patton's conclusion, "Speed, properly employed, defeats armor," captured the essential lesson of the Hellcat service. The German Tiger weighed 56 tons and mounted the most powerful tank gun of the war. The M18 Hellcat weighed 18 tons and mounted a competent but not exceptional weapon. Yet in the snowy forests of the Ardennes, speed defeated weight, mobility overcame armor, and tactical innovation proved more valuable than material superiority. Today, the M18 Hellcat stands as testament to a fundamental truth of modern warfare. Victory belongs not to the most heavily armored, but to those who can think faster and move quicker than the enemy can respond. The German commanders who watched their Tigers burn in Belgian snow learned this lesson too late. The American crews who drove their Hellcats into history proved that in mechanized warfare, the fastest gun wins. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out.
And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.